Good afternoon. I'm Saad Al-Aziz, the owner and head instructor of Semper Fortis Jiu-Jitsu here in San Antonio, Texas, and here to tackle this week's question of the week, and more of a, it's not just a question, it's more of a informational video. What I want to talk about is IBJJF membership, which is the International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation, and they run the largest, most prestigious tournaments in the world for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and they have promotion guidelines, and their promotion guidelines are, there's no minimum time that you have to be a white belt, so like you could start Jiu-Jitsu, and as far as the IBJJF is concerned, you could be promoted to blue belt. But once you hit blue belt, the IBJJF puts a requirement of 2 years before you're eligible for purple belt. Not to say that you'll be a blue belt for 2 years and you will get your purple belt. Just the IBJJF, based on their guidelines and standards, 2 years, you're eligible to be considered. If you less than 2 years, they're not recognizing your promotion. Purple belt, 18 months. You have to be purple belt 18 months before they consider you eligible for promotion to brown. And then you have to be a brown belt for 1 year minimum before you're considered eligible for black belt. Now, where the membership is important is, let's say you promote to blue belt. The IBJJF timer starts when you apply for membership as a blue belt with the IBJJF, which in membership is like $40 a year. So once you get promoted to blue belt, you should update your membership, pay your $40, and then your timeline for IBJJF recognition starts 2 years. So you could be a blue belt for 6 years if you've never registered for the IBJJF. They're not recognizing your promotion to purple. And then there's extra categories of probationary, which I really don't want to go down that rabbit hole because their guidelines are sort of vague. So the reason that's important is, like, let's say if I'm a blue belt and I promote, my instructor promotes me in a year after making blue. That means for a year as a purple, I'm not going to be eligible to compete in any IBJJF tournaments as a purple because I didn't meet the minimum guidelines of 2 years as a blue belt. Also, it's important, like if a person is a brown belt, they have to be a brown belt for 1 year. But if they've never registered with the IBJJF as a member, then it would look like me promoting that person to black belt would look like I just took him from white belt to black belt, and they will not recognize that promotion. And some people are like, well, what's the big deal whether the IBJJF recognizes the promotion or not? It's a big deal, especially if you ever intend on being a school owner or if you ever intend on promoting people yourself. Because if they don't recognize your black belt or your brown belt or your purple belt, they also are not recognizing anybody that you promote to that next belt, because it's like, well, no, he's not, we don't recognize his belt. So for here at Semper Fortis, I highly recommend that every time you get promoted, you go online with the IBJJF. It's like, just type in International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation or just IBJJF on Google, and that'll take you to their webpage. And then update your membership, pay the $40, and then your timer starts, and then you can compete at that belt level. And then also, when it's time to promote to the next belt level, there's not any problems. Because we had this problem, one of our brown belts wanted to compete, but the last time he had promoted and registered with the IBJJF, he was a blue belt. So I had to get my instructor, Luis, who's an 8th degree coral belt, to intervene, so to take him and his IBJJF membership from blue to brown, but that still put him on like a 2-year probationary. So where he would have normally been eligible for black belt in a year, with IBJJF standards, it's like he would have to be a probationary brown for 2, and then a brown for another year. So it was becomes a 3-year wait. And that's not, I mean, it's not unusual, to wait 3 years or more from brown to black. But just realize your timer doesn't start until you update your membership. And that's important, because if you ever intend on teaching at a school one day or having your own school and promoting people, you need the IBJJF to recognize your belt, and if they don't, then they're not recognizing your students' promotions either. They're well-deserved promotions. And your students are going to want to compete in IBJJF tournaments because they are the biggest, most prestigious tournaments in the world. Other people can, call their tournaments world championships, and it's basic false advertising. They're not world championships. There's one world championship in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that's the International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation's World Championships. Other organizations will call their tournaments Pan American Championships. Throughout the whole Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community, they recognize one Pan American Jiu-Jitsu Championships, and that's the one run by the IBJJF. Other tournaments can use the name, sure, but it's not going to be the same. And so you'll see that with schools. Like you'll go to a school and be like, oh, our school, we don't participate in IBJJF tournaments. And that almost always means that the IBJJF does not recognize that instructor's promotion. And, take it for what it is. If that doesn't matter to you, then okay. But I would recommend, if you think, even in the back of your mind, man, one day I might want to teach at a school and promote people, or maybe one day I want to open up my own school and promote people, your students are going to want to promote and have the opportunity to compete in IBJJF tournaments. And if the IBJJF doesn't recognize you, well, now you're handicapping your abilities to run an effective school. So, anytime you get promoted, I highly recommend you go to the IBJJF website, pay your $40, and update your membership for your new belt, because then they send me a message, because I have to sign off saying, yes, I promoted, Joe to blue belt, or I promoted Kelly to purple belt, or I promoted Samuel to brown belt, or I promoted Jacob to black belt. Like, I have to sign off on that. And so that's my little plug for this week, is do your IBJJF membership. It's $40. Just go in there, do it. I'll sign off on it, and then that way your timer starts. And then from white belt to black belt, as you go through this journey, you are going to be legitimately recognized by the biggest, most prestigious jiu-jitsu organization in the world, which is the IBJJF. And that means something. It means a lot to me. That's why I do the IBJJF certification, because I want not only to be recognized by the IBJJF, but I want my students and their promotions to be recognized by the IBJJF. So that's this week's plug. If you got a question for next week, fire it down below. Or if you got any comments on this video, you can like, dislike, make your comments, and any extra information you have, and that's all good. And thanks for listening. Ciao.